Well, hello and welcome to this week's podcast episode. This week, my guest is the lovely Kay Houghton, who is an experienced saddle fitter with 18 years of industry expertise, who works with a variety of horses across the UK and is a Saddlebank master fitter, super fitter, I think they call you actually, Kay. Kay is also a past coaching client and here to share some of her wisdom about what it really takes to run a successful business. Kay, lovely to have you here. How are you doing today?
Yes, very well, thank you. Yeah, lovely to be here.
So, Kay, one of the things I'd love to ask, there's lots of things I'd love to ask you, but one of the things I'd love to ask you about is establishing yourself as an expert, because our listeners, my listeners as equine and canine practitioners, they are experts, but sometimes it can feel a bit scary and butt up against lots of our beliefs to tell other people that you're the expert.
Yeah.
And it's really important for sales and marketing that people can trust us and that we're positioning ourselves as a solution. Now, that's so for you, what do you think it takes to really establish yourself as an expert? And what are some of the things that you perhaps overcame to be brave enough and bold enough to be like, no, I'm the expert, like I'm the go-to?
I think one of the main things that I try and do is I go into quite a lot of detail with the clients and try and explain everything to them. So trying to have a bit of a system of how I explain things so it makes sense to them from a horse owner's
Mm.
perspective. And to not kind of almost overcomplicate it for them. um, by just having like 5 points to go over rather than just a load of spiel that they can't kind of cope with. And then they feel like they kind of can learn from it as well, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, definitely, because you have a really a sort of proven methodology, don't you, for your saddle fitting work? From it's very clear from the moment somebody gets in touch till the moment you're on the yard. That's very clear with what you do, and it's also from arriving to leaving. You've got some really clear steps that you work through. How has having like a methodology helped you feel like an expert, but also for the client's perspective, they then feel like they're in expert hands?
Yeah, I think for me, it helps me because I have the same kind of system approach to each client and each horse, even though they're all very different.
Mm.
Because I go through that process myself, I get all the information I need quite quickly, and then I can kind of share it with them and use it to my advantage as well as to help them.
Definitely. And I know one of the things that we worked on in your coaching was about taking some of the pressure off your brain and stop kind of like carrying the business in on your shoulders and in your head. And systems is such a great way that you don't have to think as much, do you? So how's that been for you, Kay, implementing more structure into the business?
Really helpful. Obviously, my appointments, I had quite a good structure too, but it was all the bits around that. So I'd get to the appointments and I'd find the appointments quite easy and I really enjoyed them. But it was the bits in between, the kind of admin areas that I would struggle with because I didn't have a system for them.
Mm.
So that's then really helped me in other areas. So it's not so stressful doing
Mm.
anything else around the appointments.
Yeah, definitely. So your own methodology can really help you feel like an expert and for clients to feel that they're in sort of trusted expertise hands. And systems and structure just take the pressure off, don't they? Because the reality of running a busy business, there's lots of highs, but it can feel like a lot of pressure, can't it? And it can feel like it takes up a lot of you, like a lot of your headspace, I suppose is the best way to put it. When did you realize that Saddle Wizards needed some more structure and strategy? Not just, as you said, appointments, do that all day long. Get your horse and some saddles in front of you. That was easy. It
Yes.
was the rest of it that felt like quite a lot, didn't it?
Yes. And I think I was every evening, every weekend, I was trying to just fill in the gaps and try and cope with it all and not really getting anywhere apart from random appointments spread out here, there, and everywhere. Um, I'd be in a rush to see people. Like clients are always in a rush to see you anyway, but
Yes.
then be like, yes, I can, I'll be there tomorrow. And it didn't really work structurally for me. And they do wait, a week or 2 weeks to see you anyway.
Mm,
So that's, yeah, really when I was just doing it all the time and getting to an appointment and being glad I was at an appointment because I wasn't having to do all the other bits and bobs. But yeah, I think when it was all, there was too much else going on around the appointments.
mm. So having realizing that you could have some boundaries and that actually you could say yes, but it didn't have to be like, oh, I'll just put my dinner to one side and rush out now. Like it didn't have to be instant. I think it's really going to resonate with the listeners, Kay, because I know when I was a freelance trainer, if somebody wanted a lesson, I would be like, yep, I'll fit you in tomorrow. And I think in anybody that wants to help animals in any capacity, you you want to say yes,
Yeah.
because I think, and it comes from two places. Yes, you want to help that person, that animal, but also sometimes it can come from a fear. If I don't say yes,
Yeah.
they won't want me. They'll do something else. But what's interesting is that's been a huge shift in you, is that you'll say yes, but oh, I'm going riding tomorrow. I might see you a bit later on. Or
Yeah.
you've got a really great balance now. So how have you found saying yes, but on your terms? How has that actually been in real life?
Yeah, it's been good. And I also try and make sure the clients are right for me, which I never used to do. I'd just say yes to anyone, whereas now they go through kind of a system where they answer quite a lot of questions and I check I will be able to help them and they are the right people for me to help, which is that has made a big difference.
Mm.
And yeah, just kind of spacing people out a bit more, um, and yeah, making sure they're the right people for me to help.
I think that's so important, and it's such a great point to raise because it's really easy to just say yes to anybody. And
Yeah.
if I say to people, "Who's your ideal client?" I hear again and again, anybody with a horse and a dog, horse, dog, and a credit card. That's all I need. And and yes, it's all quite funny and stuff, but it doesn't actually make for very fun when they're not the right people, because the right clients, they're ready to buy, they know what they want, and you've got enough information that you can then help them. So just talk us about how you kind of like vet people, for want of a better word, because I think that's something that everybody listening could actually put into practice, because it makes your life so much easier. They are that you then, not only do you attract people that are lovely, but you attract people that are also good for the business as well as good for you. And then you, of course, have lots of very happy, satisfied customers because you were a good fit. So yeah, talk us through a little bit about your vetting process, so to speak.
I think it's mainly that they want to be kind of a long-term client and they don't just want a random saddle check in
Mm,
the middle of nowhere. And that they want kind of to be educated a bit as well on what's best and that they want regular fittings and to check that the horses are happy and you know to keep going with improving how the saddle fits really. um yeah, so not kind of they've just bought a horse, they need a saddle tomorrow and then you
mm,
never see them again.
mm,
So I think, yeah, that's been quite a big part of it, making sure they kind of want to be a long-term client rather
mm.
than.
And that's such a great win for everybody, because massive win for the horse. Let's put them first, because they're not just getting one great saddle once; they're getting a lifetime of great saddle fitting. Great for you in the business, but also what a win for the owner, because they're not like hunting around like, oh gosh, who was that person we used 2 years ago? Or, oh, what does the person on the yard recommend? They've got
Yeah.
trusted expert
Yes.
and they've got you in their pocket, so to speak. That again takes pressure off the owner. So that kind of own, I want to say only accepting, which is probably not the right word, like people that are serious and people that want your help, they're not a one-hit wonder.
No. No.
It is a game changer
Yeah.
for the animal, for the owner, and for you in the business, which is massive. um right, saddle fitting is such a great topic, because how many times do you hear things like, oh, that saddle was made to measure, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or, well, like the saddle's not slipping. And you're like, no, it's pinching the poor horse so much it couldn't possibly slip. Or, I don't know, that saddle fits me perfectly as the rider. And, 100 other misconceptions. But it's something that owners don't always see as much as a priority as the farrier, for example. How have you been kind of moving people forward in education? Because you mentioned that's a big part of the clients that you work with. And how do you think the listeners as practitioners can also get on board with bridging that gap when owners don't always fully recognize the issue, albeit it is staring them in front of their face?
I think a lot of the time, because you see your own horse every day and you ride and you get used to how your saddle is and how the horse goes, and you think that's normal and that's how it is. Um, I try and make them think a bit about the balance that they're in, how the horses are when they tack them up, things that you kind of, when you're in a bit of a rush every day, you don't kind of notice how they're behaving, if they are not very happy when you tack them up or when you get on. So yeah, trying to make like little checklists for them, things like that that they can refer to, and then they think, oh, yeah, when I put the saddle on today, I wasn't very happy, or I do feel like I'm tipping forwards, because a lot of people think it's their riding, but a lot of the time it's just because they're out of balance in the saddle.
That
Um,
is such a good point, actually, because all of the shoulders back in the world, if the
yeah.
saddle is throwing you forward,
Oh no.
or your legs going forward or back or whatever,
Yeah.
you kind of can't. We can't
No.
really work against gravity that easily on a horse. So actually, you're kind of signposting them to come to their own conclusion about the problem. That's very clever and very powerful, because when you realize there's something wrong, and it might have taken you a little bit longer, but you are much more likely to act upon it just than kind of someone saying, oh, you probably should get that looked at.
Yes.
That's very, very powerful, because when you hear messages from more than one kind of what's the word I'm looking for, source, I suppose, it does then result in you actually taking action. So if you are working through that checklist and you're thinking, oh my gosh, yes, Timmy the pony is doing X, Y, and Z, and
Yes.
plus my trainer said this, and plus my
Yeah.
practitioners also said this. That's what is, yeah, much more likely to get results. So I love that. Then it's really opening people's eyes, isn't it?
Yes.
As a big thing. Cool. Okay, let's talk about price. Let's talk about money, the bit that so many people find talking about their prices, putting up their prices, setting their prices. They can find that really uncomfortable. And there's plenty of people in the animal industry who their pricing strategy is to be cheaper than other
Mm.
people. Now, UK sit much more of what I call the Waitrose end of the market, the John Lewis end, rather than the Primark end. For those people that are not in the UK, that's, I can't, what Target would be like
Yeah.
Primark. I'm trying to think what's a high end US still. Let's just go with Ralph Lauren or something.
Yeah.
Kay's like Ralph Lauren, John Lewis type of the market. What's really helped you to kind of communicate the value and to just stand by your pricing, even if someone says, no, that's not for me?
I think when I changed the prices quite a lot, it did attract different clients. So that was quite a big thing for me, in that you got the more of the clients that I wanted.
Mm.
Um, because I was offering kind of a more high-end service, I suppose.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, if people do say, oh, it's too expensive, or you know, then they kind of eventually work out that they get someone else and they don't get anywhere, and sometimes they end up coming back to you anyway.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, it gets me the right clients that I want to work with, I think is what it comes down to.
I love that. So upgrading your pricing
Mm.
gave you an upgrade in clients.
Yeah.
And I think so many people walk around with if I'm just X price and it's on the lower end, it will just mean everybody will want me. It
Yes.
doesn't, does it?
Mm.
And as you said, your service is more bespoke. It's really involved. Your appointments take a long time,
Yeah.
and you offer a lot for people, and you offer lots of value. So that's really interesting. So changing the pricing opened up the clients that you actually wanted.
Yeah.
How that is a brilliant share. I love that. And how did it feel putting up your pricing and creating a whole different pricing structure? Because it was, you created
Yes.
a whole different offer, definitely on the John Lewis, Ralph Lauren side of things.
Yes.
And how did that feel when it's all very well writing in a notebook, it's all very well talking about it. How did it actually feel when it went live, when you had to say your new prices to somebody?
I think to start with, it was a bit daunting and I felt a bit overwhelmed by it. But once I started doing it, and like the work I did with you, kind of helping me kind of believe what I was doing was good, and that I am really good at it, that all helped to kind of build on the pricing and, yeah, get the kind of right price for people. Um, and yeah, it does seem to work really well.
Mm.
And I do give them a lot of time, and they do get kind of a bespoke service each client, which
Mm.
again, people then don't mind paying for.
Yeah, oh, totally. Uh, and that's really interesting that actually it did feel a bit
Yeah,
scary, but when you did some work around the belief, but also you just stuck with it. And if you'd said this is the price and someone said, ugh, you didn't just go, oh, but for you I'll just cut that in half, like that random discounting. You didn't let that fear kind of take over. You stuck with the pricing, and it has literally been the key that has unlocked
yeah,
those dream clients, because they want a really good service, but ultimately they just want a solution. They either don't have a saddle or they don't have a saddle that fits, and they want to have a happy, healthy horse that can do all the things that they want to do with it, and they
yeah,
understand the value of the work you do. And that's just, yeah, I think it's the opposite of what so many people would think, that actually the higher price brought the quality clients,
yeah.
which is fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about client attraction. Client attraction is something I love chatting about. It's word of mouth is a big part of the industry, having a really good reputation. One thing that's been really great for you is strategic partnerships, hasn't it? So
Yeah.
what's been like your favorite kind of lesson, I suppose, in client attraction? Like, it's not for anybody listening, just because you've got the website doesn't mean people are going to be knocking on the door. You have to be very proactive and have a plan around client attraction. So, what's really helped you there in attracting these clients as well as the pricing upgrade?
I think having a plan for it was the main thing, because before I didn't have a plan and I would rely on referrals from people, but it was quite, sporadic, and there was not a definite stream of new clients coming in. Whereas now there is, which has been a really big change for me, that there is a regular kind of new client, people coming in the whole time. Um, so I think, yeah, having a plan on how to get the new clients was quite a big thing for me to work out in the business. Um, yeah, I think having a plan for it really.
Oh, I mean, having a plan for anything in
Yeah.
my life helps me enormously. Be that riding, fitness, stuff
Yeah.
in the garden. Honestly, a plan is it's huge. It really is. So, Kate, just to kind of close off today, when you look back at your journey with Saddle Wizards, and we haven't even got on to your other business, you have a horse box hire business, Kay is one busy boss lady. What do you think has been the biggest shift that our listeners today could really gain from hearing?
I think a lot of the mindset work did a lot of good for me in the business. And having like processes for everything apart as well as the appointments. That was what made the biggest changes really for me. Rather than having everything, me not knowing what I was doing around the appointments, when I then had more of a structure, that made the biggest difference.
Oh,
And having a
fantastic.
plan, more of a plan really for everything.
Mm.
Um,
People think structure and processes and systems are boring, but they are the route to
yeah,
freedom.
yeah, definitely.
They really are. And
Yeah.
you've definitely got a lot more time and a lot
Yes.
more balance because you've got the structure. And, the fun stuff goes in the diary first.
Yeah.
And then the clients go in and your life's not squeezed around
No, no.
work, which is for a lot of people, that's how it kind of goes. You're doing businessy stuff, seeing clients, admin, and then you're trying to dot your own life in. But actually, you've
Yes.
built a business the other way round. Fun stuff goes in first. All the clients get seen, everyone's really
Yes.
happy, but you fill your own cup, is the expression, isn't it? First, which means you can just give so much more.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, Kay, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can everybody find you, learn about Saddle Wizards, and who knows, they may well need a saddle fitter
Oh.
to be able to refer to.
Yeah, you can find me on SaddleWizards on Instagram and Facebook, or on the website, which is saddlewizards.com.
Awesome.
So
We'll
yeah,
share all those links in the show notes
yeah,
below.
yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us today, Kay. It was absolutely great to have you on. We'll see everybody on the next episode. Bye for now.